Well, my guest today is Spencer K. Gibbins, who co-presented the Sooty Stage Show. So please welcome Spencer K. Gibbins. So hi, Spencer. My first question is how to get to be in this entertainment and theatre business?
How did I? My word, I've got an hour to spare.
Yeah, yeah.
I left school at 15 on purpose on the day I was 15,
Mm,
and I went straight into the theatre. I was very lucky I got a job. Excuse the old cough here. Been suffering for 5 weeks with this cough.
mm,
Excuse me. Yes, I went straight into the theatre, and it was a wonderful company because they supplied stage management, scenery, props, costumes, etc., etc., etc. And I learnt the business from the bottom upwards. I always say to people when I'm talking to them, whenever they say ASM,
mm.
I always say, "What is an ASM?" And they say, "Assistant Stage Manager." I always say, "No, it means add sugar and milk,"
Mhm,
which means you start at the bottom and you work your way up. And that's what I did.
mhm. How did you co-present the Sooty Stage Show?
It took me over a year because I wasn't, when I was first offered it, because I had a new manager, I was a bit, well, I'm not a children's entertainer and never was.
Mm,
So I thought, I said, let me go and have a look. And when I did go and have a look, I was so gobsmacked with how good it was. It was so professional that I couldn't believe it. And I said, well, look, I've turned it down this year, but I'll definitely do it from next year onwards. And that's what it was. And I spent 18 years man and beast with Sooty.
What's it like touring with the Sooty Stage Show?
What was it like? It was fun, absolute fun. I had the most lovely female presenter the world's ever known. Sadly, gone away now, but that was Connie Crichton. And Connie was just a joy to spend 18 years with. So we shared the stage, we shared the laughs, and it was just absolute fun. And I'm sure the fun came over to the audience because, well, I did 18 years, so I couldn't have been that bad.
Do you have a favorite Sooty Stage Show title and why?
I would think the first one I did was originally called Star Pause, which was the space one. They changed it afterwards. 7 years later, it became Sooty in Space. Oh dear. But yeah, I suppose that's my favourite because I got to wear the costumes that they wore in the movie of Moonraker. So all those costumes there. Oh, I've got a photograph here. My wife has just handed me a photograph. I don't know. You won't be able to see that, I don't think.
Just hold it up. That's it. You can see it in the
There you
reflection.
go.
Yeah,
That's Connie Brighton,
yeah,
and then you can see Sooty, and
yeah.
you can see Spencer.
I didn't
Mhm.
even know I had that. So yeah, they were all the costumes from the James Bond movie Moonraker.
Wow. How was the pre-recorded Sweep and Sue voices played back on stage?
Oh, that was all done with tape. One of the best tape systems ever, Revox.
Hmm.
It was all done and operated by one man.
Hmm.
So when we came to do rehearsals, it took me 2 or 3 years before I started to understand what Sweep said to me before I knew what Sweep said to me. So yeah, it was all done on a Revox.
What's it like making cameos on Sooty and Co?
What was it like doing? I did about 10 out of about 18, um, mainly because generally I was away during the summer and doing summer season work. So, but yeah, that was fun as well. I got to meet Christopher Biggins, Frank Bruno. Oh, stacks and stacks of lovely people.
What are the highlights on those tours?
Highlights on the tours. It was all highlights. It was all good stuff. You know, we had some lovely theatres and we had some not so lovely theatres. But once you're on stage and doing it, and you've got a very responsive audience, you just keep going, and the, the laughs build upon the laughs. So by the end of it, you've cracked it. You've done 2.5 hours, and the audience have loved what you've done, which
Hmm.
is good.
Do you have any funny moments from those tours?
Well, yeah. I have some that I would not care to do live,
Mhm.
but there were quite a few. One I can talk about quite nicely. At one point in one show, and I think it was Sooty Circus, we had, excuse me, we had 8 performing spiders, and they were like Muppet spiders. They were all worked from below, so nobody could see the actual workings, but you could certainly see all these spiders leaping around and dancing and doing routines. And there was one that was a spare, and it was a spare, unfortunately, because for some reason it came off of the main working spindle. So he was on his own. They were big, something like that. They were enormous. And this, I christened him Boris.
Mhm.
And at the end of it, when they did a big finale and they were all tumbling and everything, when that had almost subsided, I was behind the set and I got hold of Boris and I was throwing him up in the air so he would turn round and come straight down. But I had one particular gentleman who'd annoyed me in the team in the nicest possible way. He'd annoyed me. So I thought I can get him from here because he was on stage in a big packing case and he was operating from the packing case. So the audience couldn't see him, but I knew I knew roughly where he was. And I thought, I'm never going to get him, and I'm going to try. So at the end of him, I hurled it up in the air, and it did. It went right over the top, and I heard it land inside the packing case. And this little voice went, "Oh, you rotten person, you hit me on the head." I thought, well done, job done. So that was just one thing.
Do you still keep in contact with any of the Sooty crew?
There's only a few left. I'm still very friendly with Peter Saxon. Peter's a very old mate of mine. We go on holidays whenever we can together. So yeah, and of course there was one other gentleman who now lives in Stratford on Avon, and he was with us for a year. My brain's gone now. I can't remember his name. I'm very sorry if you're watching this, but yes, I suppose that's it really. Unfortunately. Oh, there's one left. Oh, of course there is. There was Connie Crichton's husband, who was called John, and John became the company manager for a while. So he took the show out as such for about 4 or 5 years. So John, yes, John is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
So there's only about, 3 of us. Craig Armand was the one in Stratford on Avon. Sorry, Craig. Yeah, so yes, I do.
What about Matthew Corbett? Do you still keep in contact with him?
Not really. No, not because we're not friends, because we are, and we've communicated occasionally on Facebook and stuff like that. And we were going to be doing an evening with Sooty, and we got it all organised, and it was all going out. Excuse me, about 42 dates, and then excuse me, suddenly it all changed. We had to cancel. So that was a shame because that would have been nice.
Do you have any memorabilia from those tours?
I don't know about memorabilia. I've got the actual person. You know, I've got the most important one at all. And you say, "Are you there? Come on. Will you leave that milk alone, please?"
Hey.
Yes, it's Ben. He's waving at you, Ben. Are you waving?
That's a date.
Yep. No, I'm very busy. You go back and get some food. Is that all right? Okay. Stop it. There you go. He's still with me.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I've got Sue and I've got Sweep.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking after the house next door. So there we are.
Mm-hmm. What do you do after you co-presented the Sooty Stage Show?
What did I do?
Yeah,
I carried on with my professional career because I was still doing cabaret.
Mm-hmm.
I was still doing entertainment managing at leisure parks. I was still doing cruise directing. I was still doing the pantomimes. So I just carried on regardless. And that was it. Well, I missed him, but we all did. And until Richard Cadell took over, he was sort of in limbo for a couple of years, which was a great shame. It was a great shame, but Richard has done a brilliant job, and well done, Richard.
We'd like to do co-present like a stage show with Richard maybe one day.
That would be nice, but I think I might be slightly too old because at the age of 39, I might be too past it. Who knows?
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, Richard's a lovely man, a very talented man, a very clever man. So I just wish him to carry on with the tradition and make sure that good old Sooty is always there.
Do you think children's theatre has changed when you did those shows?
Yes, very much so. At the time when we took Sooty out, Sooty was the number one. He was the number one touring children's show, and it was fun and it was well received. I've seen a few children's shows, not recently, in the last couple of years, and I'm sorry, not impressed. Not impressed. Not going to mention any names, but not impressed because the old rapport with person on stage and person in audience
Mhm.
seems to have gone quite a lot, sadly.
What's the best advice to someone who wants to get into the business?
To get into the business,
Yeah.
well, for a start, it depends what you want to do in the business. What do you want to do? Do you want to be a technician? Do you want to be stage management? Do you want to be an actor? It depends what you want to do. But my advice to all of you is, as I said before, start at the bottom, work your way up. Never be afraid to ask questions. That's how you learn. Don't be frightened. Any pro in the business will give you advice if you ask them. So that's the only way you can learn. Don't try and come straight in and you want to be up the top because it ain't going to work.
My last question is, what are you doing nowadays as a performer?
As a performer, well, I've just had to cancel 3 weeks' work because of this terrible chest. But we're back on, should be within a week back on form, and I'll be back to work again. And I'm doing a hell of a lot of talks. People call it lectures, but I don't like that word lecture. I call it informal talks. And my informal talks are about the Beatles and good old British rock and roll. And now I've been booked to do a variety of cruises where I'm going out doing talks, but it's all about stuff that I personally know about. So to me, that's fun. So mainly I'm doing that at the moment. I also do tours in London where I take people around various parts of London where we talk about the Beatles and, of course, rock and roll. So again, it's a labour of love for me.
Lovely. Thank you so much for taking part.
You're very welcome, sir, and I'll see you very shortly.
Cheers.